You know, there was a table. The Solange sat here. The perpetrator where you are. There was a chaplain here, an assistant chaplain, and I was observing. For 1 hour. Now, that's 15 years after the genocide. You could see she had carried questions in her mind and her heart for 15 years. She asked him questions. Where were my parents when you killed them? In which part of the house? You know? And the children, did they see their grandparents being killed? And the questions were, I heard that you were not alone, that there were other people, but you said, yes, there were 3 other people, and he named them, but she said, I was the main instigator. After an hour, she stood up and said, I thank you. You've answered many of my questions, and I deeply appreciate your honesty. And she said, not only that, I'm so touched by that I feel God is giving me the strength to forgive you. And she walked around the table and hugged him. While the guy who had come in, you know, with his head down, walk out with his head up. He's still in jail, but can you see how much this is rebuilding community? Because when this guy comes out now, instead of being killed when he goes back to his little village, now Solange talks to the others and says, gee, you know, hey, I believe in this sincerity, you know? So maybe instead of killing him, maybe we should try to welcome him. So when he goes out in a few years, and this is what we're trying to do. Now, imagine, we did 4 or 5, now there's about 10 meetings that have been done. We still have 390 to go. And so we're going back to follow that project and make sure that this will happen properly.
You know, this goes beyond any academic studies, and just equipping your new organization is in good relationship with Queen's University. Queen's University students are coming over. There's a definite academic quotient, but this goes beyond academic.
Of course,
this is nation building stuff. And if ever a nation needed this kind of rebuilding, it's Rwanda and the area around Goma there. Do you have a sense that that's exactly what you're doing? That you're really planting the seeds of a new day for these war-stricken areas?
We really have that sense, and we really do, and this is our prayer. Now, you know, we feel it's a small effort in a big picture. You know that. There's a beautiful quote, I don't know if you know, at the trial of Timothy McVeigh, Susan Erbach, who had been disfigured by the Oklahoma bombing, you know, was asked by the judge, he said to her, you know, tell me about your disfigurement, your scar. And she said, I'm proud of my scar. He was surprised. He said, what do you mean you're proud of your scar? Well, she said, because a scar tells a double story. It tells a story of a wounding. If I had not been deeply wounded, I wouldn't have a scar. But a scar also tells the story of a healing. If I have a scar, that means I've been deeply wounded, but also I am healing. And our prayer, and this is the power, like, you know, of the restorative biblical justice, you know. It can bring healing in the worst of circumstances. So we're saying, you know, that in Congo, in Rwanda, there are some very deep wounds. And we hope that our small efforts, you know, will bring some healing so that one day, they always have the scar of the genocide will always be there. But imagine if the scar has healed, how they will emerge as a greater person, as a greater nation. And this is our hope and our prayers, but it's a challenge also to bring perpetrators and victims, and God's grace, God's amazing grace is powerful.
Pierre, have you met Romeo Dallaire?
I have not met him. I have written to him. I wish I could read him, but I have not met him.
I mean, he has really brought that whole genocide to the world's attention. And
he suffered from it.
And it suffered, nearly broke him. I think it would be greatly encouraging to him, now a senator, to hear what you've just told us.
Well, we hope so. I've sent him some material, but you know, he's a very, anyway, busy, but maybe one day it will happen.
When you think about the future of restorative justice, this is something that could apply to literally scores of countries around the world, could it not?
Absolutely, Jim.
What role do you see the local church and pastor playing in all of this?
You see, part of our dream is that Christian churches would let themselves be challenged by restorative justice. You see, through the centuries, we have lost the treasure of restorative justice. Biblical justice, in my studies, in my opinion, biblical justice is a restorative justice. But through the centuries, biblical justice came to mean too often a punitive justice. You know, we quote Micah 6:8, but we reverse it. There's a lot of churches, they really love justice. They want justice to be done. The wicked deserve, what they get. And we're very punitive. I don't know why, but I'm very concerned at times by some of the very punitive attitudes, in our churches. And so if we could discover that the God of the gospel manifested in Jesus Christ was a God of restoration, of renewal, of wanting to enlarge, to embrace, then the churches would become more concerned about issues of justice instead of being concerned about a lot of very, very secondary issues. We talk about world hunger, we talk about AIDS, we talk about all kinds of things, but unless we start bringing basic justice structures, the rest will never follow. We'll put band-aids, we'll throw money. We need to go at the heart of corruption. We need to go at the heart of distrust, and restorative justice does that. And the more I study, the more I look at biblical justice, and the more I'm convinced it's a restorative justice, it gives me so much hope. And it gives me also the strength to go on and try to share what we've done.
Well, Pierre Allard, you are a terrific example. I'm listening to you. I'm thinking about the major role you've played in Canada in restorative justice, and thinking about what you're doing now, and I'm really wondering if the last 40 years was in preparation for what you're doing now. In many ways, I see what you're doing now as a much broader canvas, a much bigger picture than you have ever embraced before.
Well, it's interesting that you see that, because when I retired in 2006, I never dreamt that we would become involved with that. Like, my wife is the brain beyond all of this, and a bigger dreamer than I am. But retirement takes a very different shape, and it's very exciting. Wow. Because instead of just sitting at home now, we're involved, I think, in very crucial areas. And with God's help, we'll see some fruit coming out of this.
Terrific. Well, thank you for coming our way. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Jim.
And I know you as a viewer have really enjoyed Pierre Allard. Pray for him. And remember, Just Equipping is his new organization. If you want to log on to his website, it's just justequipping.org. Justequipping.org.